Welcome back to another edition of Inside Great Lakes Sailing. My name is Greg Norman, your host. We have a couple of very topical conversations today that I think you'll enjoy. We start out the show with an interview with the latest chairman of the Bayview's Port Huron to Mackinac race, Greg Thomas. Greg will talk a little bit about the race. This is Greg's third time as the chairman. All the way back, his first time was 2002. We talk a little bit about the race, the activities around the race. We're a couple of months away, actually about a month and 25 days away from the start of the race, the regatta. And we're also looking at about 195 participants. They figure that roughly 205 to 210 will end up in the race this year. So back sort of to the old numbers. Last year, I think they had 107 boats. So that's a good sign. And we checked in with Gail Turlock, who is the executive secretary for the Lake Michigan Sail Racing Federation. Gail's going to tell us a little bit about their U.S. Sailing's regional operation and all the stuff that goes on this summer. It was a very insightful conversation with her. So we hope you'll enjoy the show and stick around and stay tuned, and we'll be back in a second. Welcome back to another edition of Inside Great Lakes Sailing. We are going to do an update show today. I'm lucky enough to have with us the Bayview to Mac chairman, Greg Thomas. And Greg, the first question I want to ask, and this is the easiest one. You're now chairing this for the third time. And I'm assuming that they picked you because of your expertise and because we're coming out of a year of the pandemic. Is that a fair estimation?
I prefer to say that everybody else took one step backwards quicker than I did. So, they came to me in December, and something had happened. I don't know exactly what happened, but they had sort of what they felt was an urgent need to have somebody step in and do it. And I said, sure, why not? I've done it before, so it's like falling off a log.
You left the room and went to the bathroom when they were voting. Is that kind of the way it worked?
Something like that, yes. Yeah.
Well, what is, coming out of the pandemic and looking at what the race is, I'm looking at the calendar right now. We're a month, 25 days, 13 hours and 56 minutes away from the kickoff up in Port Huron. And you guys have been pretty good about keeping your heads down. I know Chicago to Mac just announced yesterday that they're moving forward. So that's a good announcement. But I guess my question is, what do you know that maybe the first year guy might not know?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
What do you know as a veteran that the first year your guy might not know?
Well, it's there's a lot of moving parts to organizing the Mackinac race. It's never mind the boats. The boats kind of take care of themselves, but we have to have a starting line committee, and we have to have, and that's boats and buoys and flags and all sorts of things, people to start the race, a principal race officer. As we move up the lake, the committee moves up, most of them in their cars, and they go up and they set up. We have to have people welcome the boats to the island. We have a big party, the Bayview Mackinac awards party it has no peer. It's the best party in sailing. And I think most people agree with that. And we want to do it again this year. We didn't get to last year. We had a race last year, but we didn't get to have a party. And all systems are go this year. Governor Whitmer has suggested that July 1st, she's going to let us have at it, and unless something bad happens after that, and we hope it doesn't, we're going to have our race and we're going to have our party.
Okay, so let's start right now. You have 194 entrants as we speak. Entries close when?
June 6th.
And you're anticipating?
We have a late entry. June 29th is a late entry. There's a late fee, but we don't have too many boats between the 6th and the
You're
9th.
typically around 225 boats, right? Give or take the last few years.
Yeah. I mean, it's last year was 107, but yeah, we usually have 220, 230. I think we're going to probably get to 205, 210 this year. So that's pretty good.
You don't think you'll go past that number just because of missing it for a year?
I don't.
Okay.
You know, one of the problems that we have is cost us a few entries is up until 2019, we were able to lease the harbor on Mackinac Island from the state of Michigan. And we got to lease it. We had to keep fire lanes open, but we could pack as many boats as we could into it. And you know, people like to stay on the island. Last year and again this year, they would not permit us to lease the marina because at the time that we were talking about it, there was a governmental order, an executive order from Governor Whitmer that says you couldn't have gatherings of more than 25 people, and the state deemed our using the harbor to be a gathering of more than 25 people, which is a little odd because they will rent it to individuals to fill all those wells, and that's not a gathering of 25 people. But if they rented it to us to fill it, it was. So we only had they gave us a slot where only our registered racers could reserve boats. It was a 1-week time slot or something like that. They gave us a special code, and we sent that out to all to registered boats. But that's only 77 boats. They only have 77 wells up there, which means the other 100 and some boats have to go to Mackinac City, St. Ignace, Sheboygan, anchor out, turn around and go home. And that has cost us a few boats. I know that because people want to be on the island. Some of the bigger boats that draw a lot of water couldn't get into Mackinac City or St. Ignace, so they felt like there was no place for them to go. By the way, they couldn't get into Mackinac Island Harbor either, so I don't know if that would make much of a difference. But
Now
so that cost us a few.
You just had Chris Shepler down, and is there any arrangements if you've got to be in Mackinac City or St. Ignace with maybe getting a ride over from the Shepler boats for the party?
Well, we have an arrangement with Chris. He's a sponsor. He's a member of the Bayview Yacht Club. He's a fantastic guy. He's an America's Cup sailor. He's a Mackinac race sailor. I mean, he's got the full pedigree for what we perceive ourselves to be. And yeah, they have special rates for Bayview members to use their ferries to and from the island. And I highly recommend. They're beautiful boats. They're fast boats, and you got a couple new ones too. So I can't beat that.
Now, looking down the roster, it looks like there's a lot of it looks like there's more. The cove side is heavier than the shore side. That's not. Am I wrong in saying that's not typical?
Well, I'll explain that in a minute. We're all going shore course this year. We view the Cove Island course to be our race. We make accommodations to smaller boats. Who it's a little bit more rigorous for them to go offshore as far as Cove Island. So the northeast corner of Lake Huron's a pretty lonely place. There's not a lot of cities up there or harbors of refuge, so it's a pretty lonely place. And so we've accommodated the smaller boats by having a shore course for the past however many years we've been doing that. Now this year, our notice of race said that if the Canadian waters are not open by April 30th, we are by default all going on shore course. They were not open by April 30th. And in fact, they're not open now. Pleasure craft are not permitted to sail in Canadian waters right now, except to the extent that they're going from point A to point B in the United States, and that takes them through Canadian waters. They can do that.
Right.
There's some areas of the St. Clair Waterway or the St. Lawrence Seaway where that occurs. But going up and turning left at Cove Island is not the most direct route from Port Huron to Mackinac Island, so we're not able to do that right now.
Okay. By rule, you can't do that. So that makes sense. Because I know
the shore course is a fantastic race course. It's not as long, but it's you have a lot more effects of the water on the shore. So it's a very dynamic race course, and I know our racers they love it. So we're gonna have a lot of fun.
Well, last year with the course, with the way the wind was, that was maybe one of the harder races that they've had in the last decade. I mean, it was, beating all the way up the hill was rather difficult. And miles sailed last year, I got to think was as much as if they went to the Cove course.
Oh yeah, it was a tough race. I mean, when you're just laying on your side and pounding into waves for 36 hours or however long that was, Mackinac, it has a way of fixing itself because by the time the boats got to the finish line, it was blowing 12 to 15 knots. The seas were flat, the sun was up, the air was warm, and we all finished under just absolutely stellar conditions. So I think we were able to forget that beating that we took up until that point in time.
How many Macs have you done?
50.
Whoa,
Last year was my 50th. Yeah.
started young.
15 years old. Yeah.
Yeah,
15.
that's amazing. There's quite a few. Is that a double old goat? Is that what that is?
It's a Grand Ram.
Grand Ram. Well, just
Double old
here.
goat, 25 Chicago, 25 Bayview.
Okay. What's a double old goat?
That's 25 Chicago, 25 Bayview.
Okay, you just mentioned that. Okay. So where are we today, and what's the next, kind of plot out the next 2 weeks, and what should sailors be paying attention to at this point?
Well, they want to get their registrations in so they don't eat a late fee. And then they've got to, get their crew list in, and their crews have to log in and sign waivers. There's just a few ministerial things they have to do to make sure they're properly registered, make sure that they get their rating certificates to us. We've changed ratings systems this year to Offshore Racing Council or Conference, ORC. We were ORR for the last few years, and been a lot of different things over the years, but for a lot of good reasons, we decided to switch to ORC this year. And ORC, because a lot of regattas have switched to ORC, is overwhelmed right now with producing certificates, and they're producing them on an as-needed basis. So they were the closest race to them. They're focusing on those, and so a lot of our sailors, I'm getting a lot of emails and phone calls saying, geez, we applied for our certificate a long time ago and I haven't got my certificate yet. And I'm in communication with US Sailing and ORC, and they're going to get them to you. And if they don't get them to you late, we're going to accept them late. There's going to be no penalty for that. We're going to be fluid and handle that.
Without getting too much in the weeds, explain why you changed. What is better about ORC than what you had before?
Well, it's a much larger database of boats. So because they have access to more boats and more people around the world, they can rate different kinds of boats very efficiently. They have a velocity prediction program. That's how this is all done nowadays, a VPP, in which they plug into the various things about your boat that determine its speed, its size, its weight, its waterline, sail area, that sort of things. And it comes out with a prediction on how fast you're going to be under various conditions. And it's just a bigger organization, better database, a lot of technical people involved, and should be really good. Really good. I'm looking forward to it.
Is it more accurate?
Well, when you're jamming stuff into a computer and it spits out a number, sailboat racing is not, it's not capable of that kind of precision, because if a wave differs or the wind differs or you got a little bit more weight or a little bit less weight on the boat, different VPPs are going to give you a better or a poorer approximation of the boat speed under those conditions. This is thought to be more closer to accurate on a wider range of condition.
Okay.
But nothing's perfect.
That makes sense.
Nobody's got a perfect rating system yet.
Okay. Let's talk about what happens in Port Huron. We're planning a big party? Are you guys planning a big party for that, or where are you guys in Port Huron?
Well, we've never had a big party. The city of Port Huron has their Blue Water Fest that goes on that week.
Right.
And we've been fortunate enough to be kind of surrounded by that, because it's a fantastic thing. They got carnival rides and bands and also beer tents and all sorts of good things going on. It's a very, very lively thing. And of course, it went away last year. And I don't know what the city is planning this year. I think with all this pandemic stuff going on, I imagine that their ability to do what they've done in the past is going to be a little bit limited. So I'm hoping that they have something, but I don't really know.
Port Huron Yacht Club usually hosts a nice event too on Friday night as well.
They have a fantastic soiree, and again, I'm not in the know with that. Last thing I heard was that they probably were not going to have that again. It was this pandemic thing that just kind of made the planning for it very difficult.
On the registration side, I saw a couple of TP52s. There's a couple of Santa Cruz 70s, and then Don Riley's bringing what used to be DeVos's old boat in, and that's sort of a learning syndicate kind of thing. You can kind of buy your way onto that boat, which is a great experience for kids who want to have that opportunity. Are you lacking the larger, more competitive boats this year? Seems to me there were more 52s last year.
I haven't sat down and done an analysis, but I don't think so. No, I think most
Okay.
of them are coming back. They're bulk of them are here every year.
Yeah.
And Don Riley's boat that's an amazing machine. I've been on very, very fast boats before and have that thing go by us like its engine was on. And
Yeah.
I think incredible sailing machine.
Well, a great gift, and what a great gift to an opportunity where some people can get some bigger water experience and a big boat experience. I think it's a fantastic
really
opportunity. It really is. And it's just, what, 86 feet?
86, yeah.
It's, if I'm not mistaken, 2 years ago, you had a 115-foot wooden boat that was made, I think, out east. It had a
Yes.
fireplace in it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And it was a show boat, obviously, but
Yeah.
we had a chance to get on and tour it. I still have the picture. If you've got a fireplace on your boat, you have a pretty nice boat.
That's a big boat. I think that's the definition of a big boat.
Even the helm quarters were like, I've never seen them. It was round, and there was stained glass in the in some of the windows, that some of the hatches. It was, I don't know what that boat cost, but it was an amazing boat. Now, that was the largest boat, I think, to ever sail in a Mackinac, right?
Oh, I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure it is. Yeah.
That's a big boat. Where does your job get crazy, or is the craziness already passed as chairman?
Well, the job is what you make of it. And there is no craziness to it. I mean, you have to have thick skin, that's for sure. Because the Mackinac race for a lot of people is the highlight of their year. I mean, it's from the moment one is over, they start thinking and planning and dreaming about the next one. And when changes to ratings come along, and it's a lot of people get disappointed, and when they couldn't get wells on the island this year, a lot of people get disappointed, and I'm the lightning rod for that disappointment. But if you have thick skin, and I'm a trial lawyer, if you don't have thick skin as a trial lawyer, you got to get out of the business. So it's you just have to give people a hug and pat on the back every while and tell them everything's going to be okay, because you know what, it is always okay.
Craziness is probably a bad semantical word. I don't mean crazy, but you got to get geared up. This becomes. Let me ask you a better question. And when does this become sort of a full-time job during the week for you? Or you're fortunate enough. I talked to Chris Clark last year, who was last year's chairman, and it may have been 2019 when I talked to Chris. No, I think I talked to Chris last year. And you have such a good staff, and there's such good volunteers, that yes, you still have to chair it, but you're fortunate to have that. But it does get busier at times at others. So I'm assuming that it's a sort of a ramp up to the week of racing.
Yeah, I mean, it ramps up. It ramps up a little bit in June, because that's when we start doing class splits, and everybody's getting their final information in. And then that last week, there's a lot going on. But I'm truly just a conductor here. I have the volunteers are fantastic. Most of them, if not all of them, have done what they've done for many, many, many years. So for me, I don't need to tell them what to do. They know what to do. We have great staff. Linda Rosiak is our Mackinac race administrator, and she is A+ positive. You can't ask for somebody for better help than that. So I'm just a conductor. And when a hole springs into the dike, I put my finger in it. But other than that, it's a pretty well-oiled machine.
Are you sailing this year?
Oh yeah.
Being a chairman and sailing, does that create any issues?
Well, I can tell you the first time I did this was in 2002, and back then the chairman never raced. And when I was asked by the then Commodore of the club to do it, I said, well, let me think about it. And I talked with my wife, and I thought about it for a day, and I called her back and I said, yeah, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to race. And he said, well, do whatever you think is right, which I didn't consider that the most overwhelming endorsement of my but I raced, and everything was fine. And then I was chair again in 2012, and I raced, and everything was fine. And nowadays, not all, but more of the chairmen will race. I mean, we've got great people on the island. I think there's nothing that I can do, just stand there, walk around pacing. So I'm a racer. That's what I'm going to do.
This is the 97th race, if I'm not mistaken.
97 sounds right. Yes.
2025 will be the 100th. Again, I think that's, if I look at behind me, the insignia behind me, 100 years is a lot of years for racing. That's a pretty cool hallmark. Even 97 years is phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, and never took a year off.
Yeah.
Never took a year off. I mean, even the war years, we kept doing it. Last year, major races all around the world were canceled because of the pandemic, and we said, heck, we're going to go. I got to tell you, there was a few of us last year that if the race got canceled, we were going to go anyway. We were going to go up and say, on your mark, get set, go, and just go to the island, because that's what we do, and it's fun, and it's a good thing to do.
Is there what's coming up? Is there anything coming up that we need to know about, or is there any uniqueness this year to the race, or anything that the general public should know?
No, I mean, the only thing that's unique is that we're all going on the shore course this year. That's the only thing that's really unique about this. We envision, it sounds like the executive order is going to be lifted. I mean, she said July 1st. We think it's going to be as close to normal as we can get post-pandemic. And, we don't know what that normal is, but we're going to get as close as we can.
And checking with some of the Canadian websites, it doesn't look very good for boating in Canadian waters at this point. So I'm assuming that's pretty much out of the question for you guys.
Yeah, well, I actually wrote a letter to one of their governmental officials 6 weeks ago, and explained, we don't even go near shore. We don't anchor. We don't dock. We just want to go out and turn left at Cove Island. And I got a very nice response, but it was basically, that decision's bigger than me, and I'll run it up the flagpole. And I haven't heard anything since then. I saw a link that I clicked on just the other day. Canada only has 3% people fully vaccinated. So, they've got reason to be hesitant. I empathize with their position very much.
Earlier in this series, we interviewed a couple from Toronto that was trying to leave by the 15th of May with their family to go down into the Caribbean. And they've got a YouTube channel and they're doing the rest of it. They let them put the boat in the water, but they wouldn't let them be on the boat, which and if they left the harbor, they would have been subject to not only fines, but possible jail time. So you can put the boat in. I'm not sure if that was just to clear the parking lots, but when the guy went through with me, he had to be down there with somebody from the government. They put the boat in the water, then they locked it and put a little tag on it so that if they left the dock. I don't know what thinking that is, but it was a little crazy.
Well, I mean, that's the problem with rules and regulations. They have no discretion, and so you get goofy results when rules are put in place. But we have to have rules, so that's just the way it works.
Not that this has anything to do with the race, but the clubhouse is almost finished or pretty close to being finished. You guys we've gone by a couple of times. It looks really good.
It looks fantastic. I can't wait to get in it. The last word is it's going to be open end of June. In fact, we typically have a summer party at the end of June, and last I heard is the plan they're having it at the new facility. So can't wait to get in there. It's really, really cool. As
a member of Crescent, we finished our clubhouse just about the time the pandemic hit, and other than going to the restroom, it's basically you can't even walk to the building. So we're hoping that we can get back inside. So, who are you sailing? Are you sailing on your own boat this year?
Yeah, I actually have a new boat this year. So the boat is sitting in Milwaukee right now, and next Tuesday I'm going to drive over to Milwaukee with some crew and hop on it and bring her back on her own bottom. We should be here by the 5th or 6th of June. So
what kind of boat?
It's a J130.
Oh, good boat. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we'd like to kind of check in with you maybe a couple weeks before the race, just to maybe do an update and keep folks abreast of what's going on. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time, and knowing that you've done this is your third. It's obviously in good hands.
Well, I hope so. I'd like to think so. And thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Greg. We're lucky enough to have with us Gail Turlock, who is the executive secretary for the Lake Michigan Sailing Racing Federation. And Gail, you're an arm of U.S. Sailing, and I just wanted to kind of explain to the crowd that watches a little bit about your organization, because we've done a lot of work so far this year with ILYA, and certainly we are involved with DYRA, but kind of talk a little bit about your organization.
Lake Michigan Sail Racing Federation is the Regional Sailing Association under U.S. Sailing, which is under World Sailing, for clubs and sailing organizations in Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. About 140 of them that we work together with to help them develop their sail training and racing programs. Also to coordinate so that dates end up not conflicting, to help them develop racing programs. We offer championships. We have a Best on Lake Michigan series for handicap classes and for offshore one design classes. We have area offshore championships for Boat of the Year. We're divided into 5 geographic areas, and that information can be found on our webpage, LMSRF.org. We also have an inshore small boat one design Best on Lake Michigan series for about 7 or 8 small boat classes, anything from Sunfish up to, I think we have one for up through Etchels, so Lightnings, boats like that. We also have our foundation program, Lake Michigan Sail Racing Foundation, that provides grants for instructor training, which helps us grow new sailors all around the lake every year. For helping clubs, they can get a grant to help with the cost of offering a major championship, Nationals, North Americans, Worlds. For hosting clinics to train more people on how to race better. For individual sailors to get a grant to attend a major championship away. So, you know, say someone wants to go to the Star World Championship, they can get a grant to help with that cost. And I know we're one of the few regional sailing associations that has this kind of program.
You have a Hall of Fame too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, we do. The Lake Michigan Sailing Hall of Fame was established about 11 or 12 years ago. And we have 2 new additions that we will be inducting later this year. And I just got an inquiry today from someone who wants to submit one for the class of 2022.
Are you, is your organization, are you one of the larger geographic areas in terms of not only geographic areas in terms, but in terms of club membership and membership in terms of bodies?
No, I can't answer that truthfully. We're probably among the bigger.
Yeah.
But Gulf Yachting Association has a pretty big area, but I don't think as many clubs. Inland Lakes, maybe they're not quite as big geographically, but may come close on clubs. It's hard to say.
I want to ask a question I don't know, and there probably is a very obvious answer, but I don't know it. That's why I'm asking. There doesn't seem to be a lot of play between the regions, and it seems to be there used to be from when I talk to folks, and it sort of says, you know, you're in Lake Michigan and we're in Lake St. Clair and they're in Lake Erie, and everybody kind of does their own thing. And is that something is that a fair evaluation?
Somewhat. There is the Richardson Trophy Championship. So there's the Yacht Racing Union of the Great Lakes that does an annual championship between 5 or 6 regional sailing associations on the Great Lakes. So there's at least 6, because there's Lake Michigan, one for Lake Superior, whatever it's called, the Lake Yachting Association, which I think is Ontario. There's one for Lake Huron. There's the DRYA is in it. And there's one for Lake Erie. And each of those associations can send 2 teams to this match race championship that's attempted to be held annually. Of course, it didn't happen last year because of COVID. And some years, all of the organizations send teams, and there was even one year that Lake Michigan sent them all. So
The,
there's that. It would be nice to see a little more interaction there. U.S. Sailing really changed their structure, and their structure used to support more cross region competition.
yeah,
The Sears Bemis Smythe Championships for youth were going to be held on Lake Michigan last year. Now it's going to be held on Lake Michigan next year. This year it's going to be in Massachusetts. And that was something, and is something, that's always, kind of mixed up everybody from across the country. They've done away with the Adams Cup, the women's championship, and now blended into what I think it's the Mallory, that's the adult championship. So you can have an all women's team go compete for the Mallory. Woman hasn't won it yet. But the challenge of those U.S. sailing championships is it's always been in loaned boats, and it's getting harder and harder to get loaned boats. There was a loan boat insurance program that was rather low cost and made it viable to do those. I haven't heard much about that program lately. And I think that's where the issue is, that if there's damage, getting it repaired and having somebody's boat out for half a season
yeah,
is making it all more difficult.
That
So
makes
if there's
sense.
club-owned boats, sometimes that can happen. Brand new boats from manufacturers, as a loaner fleet, that's really hard to come by these days. Things have really changed since I was a youth sailor.
We're at the end of May, just before the Memorial Day weekend, and it's never lost on me that administrators of these kinds of nonprofit organizations are the glue that hold it together. There has to be one linchpin. You're obviously the linchpin for your organization. So talk just briefly about this time of year and the, not the good and the bad, but maybe the rewarding and the challenging of what it's like to be that administrator, trying to hold all of these different cards together and keep the balls in the air at the same time.
Probably a little loco, because it's something I find to be somewhat fun and very rewarding. I get to go around and meet a lot of really good people and good sailors and help them towards the goals they're trying to reach. Yes, this is crunch time. Our organization can't exist without members. And so trying to reach the people that are sailing and racing and have them discover that being a member would be a benefit to them can be a challenge. All those championship series I mentioned are a benefit of membership in LMSRF.
Right.
But we also have to close when we take entries to those series, because we can't have some boat that's, sailed in 5 events and won them all and then finally decide to join. That's not fair to everybody else who joins on time.
Right.
And that's true in any championship series. You join and pay and get involved up front and then see where the chips fall. And, we're to the point that pretty much most club schedules are made. There was a big delay this year as people are still very unsure about what they're going to be able to do because of the pandemic. So that delayed our ability to get our different series together. But most groups are starting close to on time. And Chicago Mac finally came out yesterday with an announcement they're definitely going forward. And Port Huron's been head down and ready to go all along. And the other clubs' schedules are in good shape. We have a few that pretty much took last year off and are coming back. And so now it's just the point of having everybody get involved and get committed and get all their ducks in a row and find their crew and be ready to go.
you've got everything from Optis all the way to GP 52s. And I say GP because actually they're TP 52s, but nevertheless, we'll call them GPs for the short term. What's the hardest? That's the hardest group. But what's the most challenging group to sort of organize?
Probably the Lake Michigan Perfers.
Okay.
It's an interesting conundrum. If I lived in Chicago, it might be easier. It's not worth it to me to move to Chicago to achieve that goal, though.
Right.
And actually, the Great Lakes 52s, I have found to be the most organized and easiest to work with. It's been a dream.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of change going on. A lot of boats have changed hands in the last 3 years. And reaching all those new owners is kind of my biggest challenge. The email office for our address for our office, LMSRF office@gmail.com, is pretty easy to remember and monitored almost every day. Even when I'm traveling, I have it on my phone, and if I can't respond immediately, I'll at least, ping back and say I'll get back to you on X day. And so
the 52 guys have been a dream. We've been attempting to put together a nonprofit syndicate for college kids to race on a boat. We had run into some money, and we've had some conversations with some pros, and we were trying to put this thing together, and they could not have been nicer. We've run into some glitches just because it's a very expensive proposition. I run a nonprofit ski team, USSA ski team, in the wintertime. So it's the same kind of model where kids that were in college could come back and sail and get on an open water boat like the 52 and have that experience of big boat sailing that they might not otherwise have. And we've run into some problems with the syndicate, but the acceptance of the guys on the 52 have been so terrific. We're still plugging away at it. Probably won't be this summer, but it's been a real treat for us because literally again, I'm a halfway decent cruiser, but racing guys have been so terrific. And I think that, it's not the money, it's the love of the sport. Although money doesn't hurt at that level because those guys are all, professionals and they do a really good job. So it's been really fun. Is Lake Michigan, in your opinion, I'm talking to you from Gull Lake, which is where you are in Richland or Richmond? Richland. Yeah. Gull Lake's got a great junior program, if I remember right.
Yeah, the country club has a junior sailing program that participates in the West Michigan Youth Sailing Association that has a series of 4 regattas every summer. And then on the other side of Lake Michigan, the junior programs over there, for the most part, participate in the ILYA's kind of series, but they kind of give back and forth.
Yeah.
And I'm thrilled to report Lake Michigan Sail Racing Federation Youth Championship is absolutely happening this year. It will be at the South Shore Sailing School in Michigan City, Indiana.
Well, that's cool.
Which has a fantastic location, tons of parking. We are not going to have, access issues at all. And it's sponsored by Harkin Blockheads, which is an awesome pairing. And nothing official yet, but I'm going to try to work on having some kind of collegiate presentation, like right after dinner on the overnight of the event, to help families from Lake Michigan be able to start understanding what's involved in having their sailors go on into college sailing, which I'm also deeply involved in.
We sail on this side of the state. I have a great opportunity to sail out of St. Joe's on a relative's 41 Pearson. And I love that side of the lake. So we always have this debate. We kept talking about bringing our boat over that side because I think Lake Michigan has a different setup as far as not only racing, but for ports. And I think it's just a better place. We have this conundrum all the time about, is it Lake Erie? Is it Lake Huron? Is it Lake Superior? Is it Lake Michigan? And you're certainly fortunate to have a body of water that's as good as there any places in the world. Maybe. I think it's a great lake. How long have you been the executive secretary?
This is my 10th year.
Okay. Are you a racer still?
Big time. I was out last night
On
my sunfish.
Okay. All right. The cool part of racing is that you can still be competitive at an older age, and that's just not true in a lot of other sports. And that's kind of the thing that the rest of us who don't understand the racing end of it. I just had a chance to talk to Anna Tunnicliffe, who's obviously a gold medal winner. And I asked her if she ever just got in a boat to have fun, but there's just nothing in her heart or her brain that if she's not going Mach 5 or is going as fast as the boat goes, she doesn't really want to go out on a sailboat because she wants to go fast. So it's been fun listening to those who race and those who cruise, and having that argument about I'm a skier. I've never been down a mogul run because I got to go down the hill fast because that's just the way it is. So I get that part of it. What's coming up? To wrap this up? What's coming up for the summer in the short term, and then what's the sort of the pinnacle?
Lake Michigan, the pinnacle pretty much every year is the Chicago Mackinac race. Has the highest participation. Second highest participation is the Queen's Cup race, which this year goes from Milwaukee South Shore Yacht Club to Muskegon at Muskegon Yacht Club in Michigan. Third biggest race, I think, annually is the first leg of the Tri-State Regatta over Labor Day weekend from Chicago to St. Joseph. And then after that, another big one will be the Hook race from Racine Yacht Club up through Death's Door to Marinette, Michigan.
Okay. When do you get to put down the secretary hat? When does it start to wind down? I mean, you have a sailing summer, I get that, but this is just, it's always going, right?
It's lesser once I get past about June 20th. But I do a monthly e-news magazine, Lake Michigan Surf, that's free to subscribe. Again, LMSRF.org. There's a button right there on the homepage. And we don't sell or share information, and cover racing for Lake Michigan. Some folks kind of gripe that it's a little long. I wish I could get it printed because it's usually anywhere from 50 to 120 pages.
Holy mackerel.
I don't know how you cover 140 clubs and probably 10 or 12,000 sailors in a little 2-paragraph constant contact message. Sailing's not simple. You have fleet racing, you have distance racing, you have match racing, you have team racing, you have, small boats, you have youth, you have high school, you have college, and they're all different. And each of them have their own segments. There's women sailing. There's just so much to it.
Right.
And, people all have the niches or niche in which they participate. And, I try to compare it to baseball. Sure, the fields are a little different, but you're all using the same bat and ball and same sort of mitts. Sailboats, none of it's the same. Everything's different.
Right.
Small boat one designs, sure, your boats are all the same, but the water's different, the place is different, the weather's different.
A lot of variables.
It's not comparable. It's comparable in that it's completely not comparable.
Oh, I get that a bunch. Well, listen, I appreciate you explaining what the organization is. We're going to try and follow some of the activities within your group. Appreciate all the work you do for all the folks on that side of the state. And I hope our trail covers this summer. And if not, have a great competitive season.
Sounds good to me. Enjoy your cruising. I'm hoping to do a little myself. We'll see if that comes through.
Thank you, Gail, very much for your time.